Jeb Mason's a former Treasury official and policy advisor to Hank Paulson during the 2008 financial crisis. Right now, he's a managing director at the Cypress Group. He joins us live from Dallas. Jeb, I'm looking at financial stocks leading the S&P higher here. It seems like there is at least word that this is going to be getting to the president's desk. Does it surprise you at this point that we have the necessary votes?
No, it really doesn't. If you look at the fact that the Senate bill already passed with support of several Republicans, I think it was somewhat inevitable they were going to support the final conference product, especially since such effort was made to accommodate senators like Collins and Brown in the conference, and so their support's not unexpected.
Now, even though the votes may be in place, even though it will be headed, we can assume, to the president's desk, there's still a fair amount of discretion being left to regulators when it comes to how these new reforms are going to be implemented. Does that worry you?
That's right. I wouldn't say it worries me. I mean, to one extent, having the bill complete, we have some degree of certainty about the parameters for what's to be expected for the future financial regulation in this country. But there is a great deal left to discretion of regulators, as you note. Over the next several months to 5 years, regulators have to do something on the order of in excess of 100 separate rulemakings. There are over 45, I think, separate studies called for in the conference report. So it's true that there's a great deal of discretion left for the regulators, and much won't be certain for some time.
Now, I know one thing, though, that you've highlighted, and it's something that MIT Simon Johnson has been out there speaking about, is the lack of sort of global resolution here. There's a resolution authority created in this country in the wake of this reform, but that doesn't necessarily help these global entities or change the way that they would be treated should crisis strike again. How does that become possible? I mean, we're looking at a global financial system, not just a U.S.-based one.
Well, there's a lot of language in the conference report that speaks to the need for international coordination. There's the Basel III process for capital standards. We're also going to have to coordinate resolution authority across international boundaries, since our financial system and our economy are increasingly global. So it's going to be some time before different regulators from different countries can get together and nail down exactly how they're going to reconcile their various bankruptcy or resolution authority regimes.
You were a policy advisor to former Treasury Secretary Paulson during the crisis. Does this reform avoid the crisis that we went through in 2008, a repeat of that?
Well, we have an orderly liquidation authority now, and that's new, and that's something we didn't have at the time during the crisis, and it was much needed. So to an extent, it lessens systemic risk, because the chances that a single failing financial firm can drag down the entire system is certainly diminished with that. That said, there is some concern that the very existence of such authority, some would say it's institutionalizing bailouts, causes market participants to become more complacent with regard to systemic risk over time, and that could be a challenge.
Well, in talking about systemic risk and the wind-down authority, I know one of the concerns or things that hasn't necessarily been discussed as yet, but has been raised as a concern, is that the powers given to, quote-unquote, the Konjorsky 10 to wind down firms.
I'm sorry, say that again. I missed the last part.
The Systemic Risk Council, does it address that issue for you in an adequate way?
Well, that's right. I think it does. I mean, you have all the key regulators at the table. There's going to be a period of time here that the president's going to have to name his appointees to the council. But it's going to, I think, be essentially, if you look back at the financial regulatory reform blueprint that the Treasury produced at the time when I was there, they certainly contemplated institutionalizing something like this. So to examine systemic risk across the financial sector. So I think it's a good thing.
All right, Jeb Mason, currently with Cypress. Thank you so much for joining us.